The Minnesota Vikings upset the New Orleans Saints on Sunday and punched their ticket to Santa Clara to face off with the 49ers. Let's look back at the playoff history between the 49ers and the Vikings from the Bill Walsh era to today. Since 1980, the Niners and the Vikings have met in the playoffs 4 times, with San Francisco going 3-1. January 9th, 1988, Divisional Round. The 1987 season was shortened by a strike by the NFL Players Association. The 49ers ended up finishing with the best record in the NFL at 13-2. Bill Walsh mentioned in his book, The Score Takes Care of Itself, that he believed he had worked the team too hard in the weeks leading up to the matchup with the Vikings, especially the offense. The Vikings came in as major underdogs after beating the Saints in the wild card round. The Vikings took control of the game early, led by Anthony Carter. The Vikings wideout had 10 receptions for 227 yards. At the time, it was an NFL playoff record. Late in the game, Bill Walsh pulled Joe Montana and put in Steve Young. It was too late. Minnesota cruised to a 36-24 victory over the number 1 seeded 49ers. After the game, Bill Walsh was stripped of his title as team president and called the loss the most traumatic experience of his professional career. In the NFC Championship, the Vikings would get shut down by the eventual Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins, 17-10. January 1st, 1989, Divisional Round. The 49ers entered the playoffs with a 10-6 record in the regular season. It was good enough to win the NFC West and provide the Niners with a first-round bye. Learning his lesson from the year before, Bill Walsh adjusted his approach to preparation and was ready for the Vikings. Joe Montana threw for 178 yards and 3 touchdowns, all to Jerry Rice, the first of which was his first ever playoff touchdown. Roger Craig rushed for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. On defense, Ronnie Lott had 2 interceptions. Overall, the 49ers gained 376 yards total, while holding the Vikings to 262 yards and sacking quarterback Wade Wilson 6 times. The Niners routed the Vikings 34-9. The following week, they upset the Bears in Chicago on their way to their 3rd Super Bowl title and their 2nd against the Cincinnati Bengals. This would be Bill Walsh's final game with the 49ers, handing the reins to his defensive coordinator, George Seifert. January 6, 1990, Divisional Round. Seifert inherited arguably the most talented team of all time and hit the ground running. The 49ers entered the playoffs with a 14-2 record, facing the Vikings in the Divisional Round for the 3rd consecutive year. Joe Montana threw for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns. San Francisco dominated the Vikings, gaining 403 total yards and forcing 5 turnovers. Minnesota led the NFL in sacks during the regular season with 72, but was unable to bring Montana down all game. The 49ers blew the Vikings out 41-13. They handled the Rams in the NFC Championship game 30-3, en route to one of the most dominant Super Bowl victories of all time. The Niners rolled the Denver Broncos 55-10 to win their 4th Lombardi Trophy. January 3rd, 1998, Divisional Round. The 49ers would not meet the Vikings again in the playoffs until January 3rd, 1998. Minnesota came into the playoffs with the 2nd-to-last ranked defense during the regular season, something the 49ers were more than happy to take advantage of. San Francisco racked up 394 yards without turning the ball over and only gave up 1 sack. Garrison Hurst was injured, allowing 49ers running back Terry Kirby to have a career day with 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. J.J. Stokes caught a career-high 9 passes for 101 yards. Steve Young threw for 220 yards and a touchdown, adding 37 yards with his legs. The 49ers would fall to Brett Favre's Green Bay Packers for the 3rd year in a row, this time in the championship game. The Packers would eventually lose to Mike Shanahan, John Elway, and the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 32.